Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. On today's episode we're going to be taking a look at this product here. This is the Andeman Level 2 50 amp capable J1772 charger or EVSE for your garage that you could set up, charge your vehicle. So today we're going to dive in, we're going to take a look at this, we're going to hook it up, we're going to see how well it works, and we're going to see all the cool features that you get with this charger. So make sure you stay tuned, hit the subscribe button. We'll be right back. All right, everybody, welcome back. Andeman reached out to me and asked me to review this Level 2 charger for your garage, your house, wherever, and see how well this performs. So I've just started doing some EVSE reviews lately, and so this one was an opportunity for me to take a look at something that was really quite interesting, a Level 2 EVSE for your garage with 50 amp capable charging. So that's really pretty good. One of the better ones on the market. A lot of chargers will max out around like 40 amps. A lot of them do go up to 48. This will do 50. Not many EVs nowadays have more than a 48 amp onboard charger, other vehicles, though there are cars out now that are starting to come out with 80 amp onboard chargers. And those cars will basically take every bit of what this can handle at 50 amps capable. So let's dive into the box. Let's see what we get with it. We'll go over some of the things that it offers, and then we're going to go down to the garage. We're going to get it installed. We're going to hook it up. We're going to see how it looks, see how it functions, and we'll test it over the course of about a week and see how well it does. And then we'll give you my final verdict on this Level 2 charger. So let's go ahead and jump into the box. Seems to be packaged pretty well. We'll throw that off to the side. Looks like we have our user guide, the really large anchors here for the charger to go into your wall. If you're putting it into drywall, they got some really large anchors, probably a bit too large in my opinion. We also get our user guide here, which is pretty nice. So this is just a very generic, like, this is all the statistics about the charger or EVSE. You're going to hear me say charger a lot. I understand that this is an EVSE, not a charger. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand the difference between an EVSE and a charger. Charger's in the car. EVSE is what delivers the energy to the car. So I use those interchangeably in a lot of my reviews, so don't get confused by that. If I say charger, I really mean the EVSE that we're dealing with here. So we go over some of the specifics. So it claims that it can do 12 kilowatts at that 50 amps, which sounds about right. It is a hardwired unit, so this does not get hooked up to a NEMA 1450 outlet. And the main reason for that is that you can't pull more than 40 amps from a NEMA 1450 outlet. NEMA 1450 outlets go in a 50 amp breaker. A 50 amp breaker can only do 40 amps continuous based on code. So we see a charger like this that can actually do 50 amps of continuous power. It has to be hardwired in order for it to be to code. So that's why we don't get a NEMA plug in this box. So other things that we go through real quick, we also got some of these interesting cards here. They got some RFID cards, which is really interesting. So you can actually use this as an activation point. So like if you keep it outside, let's say, and you don't want people just coming up and like plugging in and stealing your charge, you can set it up in the application to only work when you activate with a card, which I think is a really, really cool. I mean, we're very much getting used to the whole using key cards now. You know, Tesla obviously just comes with a key card now. And so this is something that I think is really cool and kind of important going forward, especially if you're trying to use a charger that might be accessible by the public, but you don't want the public to use it. You can have an RFID card to activate the charger, as opposed to pulling out your phone and using an app. Hey, whatever's easier for you, you could do it that way with this EVSE, which is really cool. Operating temperature, negative 30 degrees Celsius to 50 degrees Celsius, so quite a bit a range there, which is good to see. And the manual goes on just talking about how you mount the plate to the wall to mount the Andeman EVSE to, how you're supposed to hook this up. Very vague, though, how you're supposed to hook it up to an electrical source, and I'll kind of go over that a little bit later, how I'm going to do it. Obviously, if you are not comfortable with doing something like this, absolutely hire an electrician, a properly certified electrician to do this, so this way it's done properly and safely. So let's go ahead and move that stuff out of the way. Take a look at what we have here. So we have this nice cable here. Now this is a 25-foot cable, which pretty much puts it at its maximum length. This means it'll stretch, you know, a good chunk of your garage space or driveway or wherever you're going to have this. So that's good to see. Try to balance this here. Okay, let's move this out of the way. Put this out. This is the Andeman Level 2 EVSE. Let's get this unwrapped from the plastic and take a look at it a little bit closer and see how it looks. All right, so we got everything unwrapped here now, except for the cable. I'll leave the plastic on the cable till later. Once we get everything wrapped up and installed and organized, then I'll take the plastic off the cable. So we got the Andeman unit here. Really nice white plastic casing. It's got this nice large screen on it, which is nice. So this is going to give you some statistics of how the charging session is going on the screen here, which I think is really cool. This is also a smart unit, which is Wi-Fi capable, so you could hook it up to your Wi-Fi. You can actually get notifications on your phone. You can actually start and stop charging from the phone as well. So really, there's a lot of functionality that this unit does other than just being a level 2 charger. And so we're going to kind of see all that in a little bit and see how well that all works. So really interesting. A white plastic unit. It has this cutoff switch on the side, which is nice. So if in case you ever have like an emergency and you need to shut off the charger real quick, you can hit that little button right there. On the back of the charger, we have the mount that we will be mounting to a wall. That'll give us the ability to easily install this. So you mount the mount first and then you just snap the charger in. It's really easy, a couple screws and you're good to go. And yeah, so pretty cool unit here. We got the J1772 handle. So we have a pretty nice J1772 handle here. Just a plastic handle, nothing special. You know, obviously be careful. Try not to drop it on the hard concrete or floor because it may scratch real easily. It could crack. And of course, you don't want cracked handles with there being openings when you have so much power going through it. So make sure that you have this thing safe. And it's protected, and it does come with this dust cap on the end here to keep anything, dust, debris, anything out of the front of the J1772. I do see an O-ring in there as well, which looks good. The action of this is really nice. So you hear a nice click for the cutoff switch. So when you push this button down, it cuts off the signal to the car. Very nice. I like how this mechanism is integrated into the handle and it's not exposed on the outside of the handle, because a lot of times if you were to drop these, let's say on the top like this, if you were to hit any part of this and possibly break it, you're now breaking a safety mechanism on the J1772 handle. The latch there seems to be working pretty fine, so we're going to go ahead and we'll give that a test when we go and plug it into a vehicle. Now, on the other end, we have, once again, a hardwired connection because we cannot use a NEMA plug for this. It has to be hardwired if you intend to use more than 40 amp charging. So they give you your 3 cables, and these 3 will hook up to your, however you're going to hook it up, an electrical box, you know, however you're going to get it. Obviously, you're not running this to your circuit breaker. This has to go into some sort of junction box. Junction box will go to your circuit breaker. So it does come with these little loop connectors at the end. Now I'm probably not going to be using these for the way I need to do it, so I'm going to probably be cutting these off and splicing some new cable to put into a junction box that I have set up down there. So interesting idea. I don't really know if these loop connectors are commonly used in EVSEs. I have never seen this style EVSE. Typically you're running the hardwire cables into the charging unit itself, not necessarily with a pigtail that goes to another, you know, junction box. And then the last thing we'll go over real quick is this. This is just the J1772 holster that you screw to the wall, and obviously it has a cable wrap on it as well. So pretty nice. Let's just see how this fits the J1772. All right. Feels pretty good, snapped on, feels secure. All right, so you don't have to worry about your J1772 falling out. And then obviously the cable wrap as well. So you'll want to screw this to someplace pretty secure. Obviously you want to try to get some studs because 25 feet of this cable can be heavy. So you want to make sure that you get this very secured to your wall. You don't want this falling when you have it all wrapped up on your wall. One more thing I want to bring up before we get down to the garage. Now, it shows that it is FCC certified, which is just basically saying, as far as wireless communication goes, it doesn't go outside of the spectrum of what the FCC communication standard says is normal. So it operates perfectly fine as far as wireless, does not cause communication issues or interference with other devices around it. And the other one is an ETL certification. So that's the important one here. So it's very good to look for chargers that are ETL certified or CE certified. There's other certifications that could be somewhat equivalent to those or can enhance the other certifications as well. So this is ETL certified. I actually did ask for the documentation from Andeman, and they were very kind enough to provide that to me, so I was able to see the documentation that shows that this charger is actually ETL certified. And so that's really kind of cool to see. It's really kind of a selling point for me. ETL certifications are not cheap for companies to go get. That's why some of them don't do it. Going that extra step, getting certified, that means they're expecting to sell a lot of these because they have to make up that extra cost. And this unit, you know, coming in at the price that it is, I think it's pretty good. And, you know, this may be a charger that you are interested in for that. And the last certification I want to go over for this is IP66 rated. So 66 rated, which is really good. So pretty much as far as solid debris, dust and stuff goes, this is considered to be pretty much 100% impenetrable from those. And the IP6 rating on the liquid side, the water side, it can withstand high pressure jets of water. So you can mount this outside and it will be really good in all conditions and pretty much never allow water into the actual plastic enclosure. Now, it does not cover it for, let's say, flooding. So obviously you're not going to mount this low to the ground, because if you ever have any type of flooding, this will not prevent flooding or water getting into the unit after it's been submerged for a while. So submersion is not something that this is covering, but the IP66 rating is really good to see for something like this. So good for indoor, good for outdoor, good for all weather. Temperature range seems pretty good, but let's put it to the test and see how well it holds up to my charging. So let's go ahead and get down to the garage and take a look. All right, everybody, well, you join me now down in my garage where we're going to be mounting our Andeman Level 2 charger right here on this wall. So I've gone ahead and taken the back plate off of it. It's a really simple thing. There's this little mechanism here that you push in from the side with any skinny object and push this and it slides down. Really nice, easy, quick disconnect. In the event that you ever need to take it off the wall as well, you can just stick something in, push it off, and it's already disconnected. So what we're going to do is we're going to get this mounted to our wall here so we can mount the charger. And I'm not going to be using the screws, the hardware that came with it, just because these are a bit overkill for what I need. I'm screwing straight into plywood here, so that'll hold it perfectly fine. And we're going to go ahead and get this, you know, set up in just a moment here. Now you can see here, this is the junction box that I'm going to be using for this setup. So we're going to be running that smaller cable from here and move it over into that junction box. And then that'll give us power to the unit. So we're gonna go ahead and get this set up right now, and we'll check in with you as soon as we get there. All right, we got the Andeman unit installed on the wall. Now we're gonna go ahead and run our power to our junction box here. Once we get that all done, then we'll be testing it out. All right, everybody, well, you join me now here with the unit on the wall mounted up. You can see I got the cable wrap mounted to the wall as well, the cable wrapped around it. This has all been hooked up in this junction box here. Now, I'm not going to show you how to do that part. I'm not going to show you how to hook this charger up for electrical, just because I highly recommend you consult an actual electrician when it comes to doing this type of work. I don't recommend trying to do this yourself if you're not comfortable. So I'm not going to show you any of that, but as you can see, we have power coming through the junction box. The charger is now on. We cleaned it up a little bit here. So we have our screen here. And so what we're going to do now is we're just going to follow the instructions that are on the screen. We have on the screen here, it says, welcome to use AC charging equipment, swipe card app to start charging. So you can use the card, which I have here in my hand, or you can use the app to start charging. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tap the card. We'll see how this works. Okay, there we go. So now it's doing a countdown of about 1 minute. So I guess what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and get this plugged into the vehicle, and see how well it works.
Okay, so as we can see here, it is counting down our seconds. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and try to make some haste here and get this charging cable brought out across our garage like so. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug it into this vehicle here, which is a Ford Mustang Mach-E. And we're going to plug it in. All right, felt pretty tight going in. It appears that we do have our charging light indicating there. Take a look at the charger. We now have a green circle here. Looks like we got a charging voltage, 243 volts. Looks like we got about 15 amps and rising. And we are getting some kilowatts in here. So now this car is capable of 48 amps. So we are gonna go to 48 amps. It will not do the full 50. And what we're going to do is we're going to see how well this works. All right, as we are ramping up, we are almost at 46.5 amps there. So we are pretty much maxing out the onboard charger of the Mach-E at this point. So what I'm going to do is while we are doing this, what we're going to do is I'm going to take some temperatures. And these temperatures are going to be baseline temperatures. So we were about 64 degrees right there. Let's get right there, about 63 or so. These should all be about ambient temperature at this point. And what we're going to do is we're going to use these temperatures as our baseline. Everything should be around the same ambient temperature, 67. Let's get some on the handle here, 64, 65. Okay, perfectly fine. All right, so we are good with ambient temperatures.
All right, so really cool. We got the Andeman charger up on the wall. It is hooked up. It is powering my vehicle right now. So right now it was showing we are 2 minutes into our charge at 240 volts, 46.5 amps roughly, and 11.2 kilowatts of energy going into the Mach-E. So we are pretty much maxing out what the car can handle. 48 onboard charger, you know, so that's roughly around what we're looking at there. So we have no way of maxing this out for the full 50 amps, but we are getting the 46.5 amps or so that it can produce to put into the car. So the car is at a relatively low state of charge at around 35% right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give this a few hours actually. So we're just gonna let this thing ride. We're gonna take some more temperatures of these cables throughout to verify that the cables are, you know, within spec, nothing concerning with the temperature of those cables. So we're gonna go ahead and give those some time as well and then check that at that point and see how that is. A couple things I want to talk about real quick. This looks really nice. I like the screen. I like the information it gives you on the screen. It gives you time. It gives you how much kilowatt hours is being dispensed into the car. But anyway, really cool informational screen here. Gives you a lot of information, shows you what you're doing. And so while we're doing that, let's go ahead and talk about this. So this is a little bit of a J1772 holster here with a cable wrap. Not too bad. It's good to see that it's included in the box. You know, not only do you have a little dust cap over the end, but you also have this little holster that you can plug it into. So really cool. But those things are pretty cheap if you ever wanted to get another one. All right, so while we're charging the vehicle, let's talk about a few things. The application for your phone. So there's a QR code that lets you download the application to your phone. So we're gonna go ahead and download the app after we scan the QR code. So it's called Smart Life, Smart Living. That's the app there. And we're just gonna install that real quick and we'll see how we need to connect it to the EVSE here. I don't know if we're going to need to actually disconnect our charge or if we could do it while the car's charging. Not sure, but we're going to go ahead and give it a shot anyway. So it looks like all we have to do here is open up the app. So let's go ahead and do a try as a guest. Do a notifications. So now it wants us to add a device. Let's go ahead and add a device real quick. Let's see, Bluetooth. All right, we'll just allow it. We'll allow location, sure. What are we setting up? We are setting up, let's see, what would this be under energy? So we're gonna go ahead and click that BLE and Wi-Fi. All right, so we went ahead and followed the instructions for that were in the book. Pretty clear, pretty precise. So we're gonna go ahead and we connected it to our Wi-Fi network. So now it is connected to our Wi-Fi network. It now found the charger. It added the charger. I'm hitting done now. It shows that we are now loading up, and there we go. So we were able to do this while the car was charging. That's pretty interesting. So it's now showing our real-time charge here. Charging shows our voltage, shows our current amps. So there you go, 46.7. Yes, it matches what's on the screen there, 11.208 kilowatts. Yep, that matches. And look, it just changed. And in real time, I was able to see the change between that and this. So that's pretty impressive how quickly it changes and updates. So that's really nice. All right, let's play around a little bit more here and see what else there is. Looks like you'll click on record here. So it shows your record. So yeah, it's really nice. It shows your history of charging the vehicle. So that's cool. You keep records. You can see how much you've spent on energy, basically. You can see how much energy you've used, and then you can calculate that based on your electricity cost. Very nice. Looks like we have a day, month, year graph of our charging, which is cool. Let's go into setting real quick. And so under settings, it looks like we have an export of our charging record. It shows our current charging, which is 48 amps. Let's click on that. Okay, so we can bump this up to 50 amps if we want. Once again, there's no reason to at this particular situation because the car can only accept 48 amps. And really, honestly, those 2 amps really not going to make much of a difference in the long run when you're charging your car over the course of, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours, whatever. So we'll just keep that at 48 amps, perfectly fine. Current temperature, so we have a temperature reading, 32 degrees Celsius. Oh, we do have a Wi-Fi icon up here now, though. That's kind of interesting. So we do see that it is connected to Wi-Fi. So yeah, so 32 degrees Celsius, no way to change that to Fahrenheit, it doesn't look like, which is fine. Don't necessarily need to change it to Fahrenheit, just easier for, us Americans, we know what temperature that is. But overall, I gotta say this is pretty cool. So now we can keep real-time charging stats on our phone. We can watch it, see how it's charging. We get records and graphs, which is going to be pretty nice. So looking forward to that. So we're going to let the car charge for 3 hours. We're going to take some temperatures, make sure everything looks good between, this box here all the way down to the car. Make sure temperatures are not out of line. So 3 hours at a full 48 amps or roughly 48 amps. It's still it's about 40, almost 47 amps now, 46.8, 46.9. So we're basically getting the full maximum to the car right now. So let's go ahead. We're going to give this some time and then we will come back to you in a little bit.
Just doing a quick check-in here. We are 74 minutes into this charging session right now, so I wanted to do some temperature checks here. So let's go ahead and do this. So we got about 84 degrees, 85 degrees there. Let's take a hit there. Let's see, about 90 degrees there. And let's see, about 91 degrees on the output for the J1772 cable. So we'll go across our garage now and get some temperatures over here. So at this part of the cable, we are at about 88, 87, 85, fluctuates a little bit depending on what part of the cable we're hitting. So not too bad there. Get some part of the adapter or the J1772 handle here. 82, 84, and it's very cool down here. So, yep, just where it's connecting to the car, it's getting a little bit warmer, but really nothing out of the ordinary. If you touch it, it's not hot enough where you're going to feel uncomfortable grabbing this cable. That's very much within specification. So let's give this another little bit of time and we'll see how it turns out. Okay, so we are coming up on our 3-hour mark. As you can see there, 163 minutes currently, so we got a little bit left before we hit 3 hours. As you can see, our voltage is still very constant at 241 volts. Very good. 46.3 amps is what's going into the vehicle, still at 11 kilowatts. And we have delivered almost 31 kilowatt hours of energy to the vehicle in less than 3 hours. That is pretty impressive for a charger, a home charger. So just as we're at this point, let's go ahead and take some temperatures now, and then we'll kind of finish up our first thoughts of the Andeman Level 2 EVSE for your garage. All right, so here on this cable, let's just get some temperatures real quick. So we could see we are up to around 87, almost 88 degrees here at this part of the cable. Not really anything to concern about. It's not warm to the touch. Oh, it's warm, but it's not like it's hot to the touch. You're not going to be, hurt if you were to touch this cable. It's not even 90 degrees. Let's go ahead and hit the other side here. So we are looking at about 93 degrees going into the unit. So coming out of our junction box and going into the unit, we're looking at a little bit of a temperature of around 93 degrees there. Coming out of the unit now, we are looking at a temperature of about 95, 96 degrees. Let's see how this feels. So yeah, a little bit of warmth after 3 hours, but nothing really to be concerned about. So let's go ahead to the other side of the cable now. Let's go ahead and test what we see over here. So let's shoot right here before the handle. 87 degrees, that's pretty good right there. Start shooting some of the handle here. The handle is very cool at the bottom, but this is what we want to see. If we start going up a little bit further, it's going to get a little bit warmer as we get closer to the vehicle. 85, 86 degrees there. 83 on the top. Let's come around this side now. 85, almost 86 degrees. Yeah, so overall, I got to say it's holding up pretty well. Really no issues here. I mean, it's barely warm to the touch, so that is pretty good as far as I'm concerned. And one last thing I always like to test with the vehicles is the disconnect switch that's right here on top of the J1772 handle. So as you can see, we are still charging as per the flashing light there. So we're going to go ahead and push down on this. All right, it disconnected from the car perfectly fine, and I'll go ahead and pull that out. The plugging in and the unplugging of this is a little bit on the tighter side, but nothing that I would be concerned with. I feel like it goes in perfectly fine. It comes out perfectly fine. Definitely not as loose as other ones that I've tested, so that's good to see, but it's a little bit on the tighter side. So we can see, if we look over here at the screen now, we got a blue light instead of the green light that indicates that it is ready for charging, and it's saying that we can use the AC charging equipment by swiping the card or using the app to activate. Now, of course, if you wanted to, let's say, turn off the activation part of this, you actually just take your little RFID card, you hold it up to the RFID thing here for 15 seconds, and that disables the authentication using the card, which means you could just plug it in to start charging your car. So that's another cool feature that I like about the Andeman, is that you have the option to disable that feature if for some reason you don't need it to be like that. For instance, in my garage, I'm not worried about other people taking charge from my garage because, yeah, it's my garage. So anyway, nice features, and we'll come back to you in a little bit with the final verdict. All right, just kind of a midweek check-in here. Got home from work. My car's down to about 15% state of charge, so it definitely needs to charge up. So what we're going to do is go ahead and get this charging session going here. So let's go ahead. We're going to plug in my Tesla today. All right, we're going to take our Tesla adapter here. We're going to grab our Andeman J1772 handle here, pop it onto our adapter, open up our Tesla flap here, plug it in. And now the way that the charger is currently set up is to not automatically go. So we would either have to tap our card, or what we could do is we could start this charging from the app itself. So what we're going to do is we just open up the app, we just slide to the right here, and we already heard the charger going. So that clicked. Car's now getting ready. So just that easy, we are able to charge the vehicle from the application. So just in case you forgot your card or you're fumbling, you don't know where your card is, you just want to get the car charging, boom, just like that. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of these specifications here of what we're charging at. All right, we are set for 48 amps in the Tesla now, and we can see right here that we are ramping up 32 amps, and it will continue to climb 242 volts, 32.5 amps. Oop, jumping around a little bit right now. We'll just give that a second. There's 44 amps, 47.7, 48.2. That's actually higher than what we saw on the Mach-E the other day. So it is now about 48 amps, just about 11.5 kilowatts of energy going into the car. So this is only going to take a few hours for me to get to my daily 60% charge. Is usually where I keep it. So right now it's at 15%. We'll give it a little bit of time and see where it gets in a few hours. All right, out in the garage now. We are now exactly 3 hours into this charge. As you can see there, 180 minutes, 240 volts, just over, almost, oh, there it is, 49 amps going to the vehicle right now, a little over 11 kilowatts, and we have delivered 34.5 kilowatt hours to this vehicle. So this has now hit just about its 60% stated charge in the vehicle. All right, everybody, well, you join me back now about 1 week after using the Andeman
50 amp level 2 EVSE here in my garage charging my vehicles. Now I've done a couple different things with it over the course of this week. I've charged multiple cars at 48 amps, so full basically of what the car can handle itself. I've gone ahead and overnight charged my Tesla at a slower amperage just to see how that would work, and that seems to work perfectly fine. So we were able to tone down the speed of the charger successfully. You are able to charge at a lower rate perfectly fine, which is always good, and it's always something that I recommend is, only charge as fast as you need, not as fast as you can, because there's no reason to charge your car in 3 hours if you're going to be sleeping for 8 hours, So if you're going to be charging your car overnight to get up for a commute the next morning, why not just charge the car over the course of those 8 hours or 10 hours? Now, of course, if you have those electricity rates that change through the night and maybe you want to do a window between, 12 a.m. and let's say 6 a.m. or something like that, then you want to make sure that you can schedule the time for that. Now, that being said, in the app, you do have the ability to delay your charging. So you can plug in your vehicle and then hit how many hours you want to delay the charging before the vehicle starts charging. This way you could time it within a window. However, I have not come across a feature that allows you to schedule charging. So for instance, if you want the car to charge between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m., I don't see a way of being able to do that through the app. Now, of course, nowadays a lot of cars, a lot of the EVs have that scheduling built into the car. So if you were to plug this charger into the car would just sit there and say, I'm not going to do anything until midnight, and therefore the car knows what to do. But I didn't see that type of scheduling in this app itself. But I don't think that's really a deal breaker. Like I said, most cars have that functionality, and honestly, it's probably better off that you put it in the car instead of on the charger itself. But that's just my opinion, especially if you're using multiple cars with this charger, and let's say you have different schedules based on those two vehicles for some reason. The car should be controlling the schedule, not necessarily the charger. So not a big deal there. But I do like the fact that the app gives you a lot of information. The fact that you can start charging from the app, you can stop charging from the app, shows you all real-time statistics, your voltage, your amperage, your kilowatts. It actually gives you a record of your charging sessions, which is really cool as well. So it shows you how long you were charging for, how much energy you used during that charging session. So I think they got a lot of really cool information in the app. Nothing that's really above and beyond per se that you would get in most apps, but I would say they do a really good job of giving you the basics and what you need to know when it is that you're charging your car. So I do really like that idea. So let's talk about the physical unit real quick and where we're looking at with this. So this unit right here obviously has been mounted to my wall. It's mounted securely on the wall with that bracket that we mounted to the wall. Looks really good, seems to be pretty stable. The hardwiring aspect of this unit is a little different than what I've seen in a lot of units. Most hardwired units, you actually hardwire into the EVSE itself. You don't usually have a pigtail that comes out that requires you to hardwire it to your own box or junction box or whatever. Typically, most hardwire units that we see here are actually just you run the hardwire directly into the unit. Now, for some people, this actually might be a lot easier for you to handle the installation. Maybe you just don't have the proper space to be running, cable out of your wall and then putting the charger there, and it just becomes a lot more difficult. This gives you a little more flexibility of where to put it. And so as you can see, we have a few feet of cable here that allows you to kind of adjust the location of the EVSE for where you want it. And so that is kind of nice if that is something that's interesting to you. Speaking of cabling, we have our 25-foot cable here. Now, 25 feet is perfect. I think 25 feet is a really good length of cable, and a lot of people don't usually need more than 25 feet. 25 feet will go from this part of my garage, which is really towards the back of the garage, and will get me out to just outside of the garage door, so I can actually plug a car in my driveway with a 25-foot cable. And so that is pretty impressive alone. As a 25-foot cable, it really is really good as far as that goes. Now, let's talk about the cable and the connector real quick. So this cable is pretty thick. And not only is it really thick, but it is really tough to maneuver when it's cold. So let's say you're planning on using this EVSE outside, right? This cable is pretty thick and it will get really, really stiff in cold. This is in my garage, and when it was about 30-something degrees outside, maybe about high 40s in the garage here, this cable was still very difficult to handle and to bend. When it's warm, it's perfectly fine, but once it gets cold, it was a little difficult to bend back into loops properly. Even to get it off of this, it was kind of stiff and really hard to maneuver. So the cable is a little bit stiff, a little bit harder to use, but I mean, honestly, if you're gonna use it in your garage, let's say you live in a mild climate like I do, where we get cold weather maybe for like 1 or 2 months out of the year, this is not really gonna be a deal breaker for me. But let's say if you are in a cold climate up north, let's say you are mounting this outside, you're gonna be dealing with below 40 degrees in the morning for, let's say, multiple months out of the year. This could be a little bit difficult to get used to, trying to loop it up every time you're done with it, you know, especially if you're running it across like your driveway or something and you're going to be using most of the 25-foot length. It could be a little difficult, and I think after a while people are just going to be like, you know what, I'm just going to throw this over by the side of the driveway and just leave it there, and that's not usually good for the cable. But I mean, I think that's the only issue I have with the cables. It's a little thick, it's a little stiff, and it's a little hard to bend. And you know, that being said, it could be difficult for some people to maneuver this cable. Now, the J1772 handle, I believe this is designed very nicely. The latching mechanism here, the release mechanism that they hide most of it underneath of this plastic cover, is a fantastic idea. I love that. The dust cap is nice to have. Of course, they give you the J1772 holster and the cable wrap with this charger as well, so that's really nice. So you do have an alternative to use that, of course, if you want to. The J1772 handle itself is a plastic handle. It's nothing special. It doesn't have a great grip. It's just all plastic. It does have some ridges down here at the bottom, which helps you, you know, grip it if you need to, especially if you have like gloves on or something because it's cold outside. You want to have a little something to grip to and not just slip off of the J1772 handle. Of course, you could drop it. You could potentially crack this or break it. You know, it's so, but other than that, I think it would be pretty durable outside in the weather. So let's go ahead. I want to plug this into the car one more time, and then we're going to talk about the screen of the unit, activating the unit one more time, and what I do like about that. All right, so we have the EVSE now plugged into our vehicle over here. And the really cool thing about it is that it doesn't do anything when you first plug it in, because it wants you to authenticate with the EVSE. So either one of the two provided cards here, or you can use the application. You just swipe and it starts the charge. Now, I really like this feature. I really do. Like the whole card thing, I think, is a fantastic thing. If you're gonna leave this outside, if you're gonna leave it in like a semi-public place for people to see, and they're like, oh, well, I don't know whose charger that is, but I'm gonna try to grab it for a few minutes or a few hours. You know, it's good to know that you can just lock down the safety of that charger just by a card, which is really cool, or you can just use the app to activate it, of course. And if you don't need that, for instance, in the garage here, if you don't need to use an activation procedure with a card or the app, you could turn off that functionality just by holding the card up to the charger for a little bit, and it will disable that functionality. And of course, then you can just use the charger when you plug it in, it starts charging, period. But I do like that extra functionality that they throw in there. So now that we have the car plugged in, I'm gonna go ahead and just tap my card up here by the Andeman logo. It's now clicked, it's charging the vehicle, and I hear the car already accepting the charge. And now we have the vehicle plugged in, it's authenticated with the card, the vehicle is now charging, and on the screen here we see a lot of necessary information. I think this is really cool about this charger, is that you can get a quick glance at the charger and see where you're at. The Mach-E is one of the few vehicles that actually does not have a charging speed in the vehicle itself. So if I were to jump in the vehicle, it doesn't show how fast I'm charging the vehicle right now. So I can't just jump in the vehicle to see what speed that we're charging at. It just seems like a lost feature that should be in that car. But if I do want to come out to the garage and see where we're at, I can very quickly look at this screen here, and I can see that we've been charging for this much time. It's that much voltage, which is nice to know, because sometimes you're in an area where you may not have 240 volt. You might be in a commercial area, which is 208 volt. So you might see 208 there if you're installing this in commercial. You can see the amount of amperage that we're putting into it. So at the moment, we're doing 46.5 amps of power going into the vehicle. Once again, pretty much maxing out this vehicle because it is a 48 amp onboard charger. 11.17 kilowatts is what that equates to when you take the voltage and the amperage. That's what you get for kilowatts. And of course, it shows how many kilowatt hours. So it shows the session as well. So you can see how much energy you've dumped into the car while we were waiting for the car to charge. And you can see all the statistics right there on the screen. Of course, you have a little Wi-Fi symbol up here, lets you know it's connected. So this way you could just check it on the app if you wanted to. But you know, some people want to walk out to the garage and take a look at some information right here on the screen. All right, everybody, well, there you go. There's the Andeman Level 2 50 amp EVSE for your place. So you could charge up your vehicle plenty fast with the full 50 amp potential of this charger. I think it's going to do a good job of charging up your vehicles over time. I think it's a pretty good product. If this is a product you're interested in, you could take a look down in the description below. You'll see a link down there. It'll take you right to the product. You can take a look at it, see if it's the right one for you, compare it to others, and see what you think. But I really do like a lot of the features of this charger. The app integration works really well. It paired with the app like instantly, which was really nice. The card, the RFID card security thing where you could just tap the card and the EVSE will start to charge your vehicle. I think that's really cool for those of you who may plan on putting this outside and you're afraid that maybe your neighbor or somebody else might come along and try to steal some of your energy. So I really like the extra little features that they've thrown in this. The screen is really nice. It gives you a lot of information. So I think overall, I think this is a really cool product and a really interesting one to put into your place. But anyway, I'd like to thank Andeman very much for sending this product out to me. I'd like to thank all of you for watching today's episode. And of course, once again, if you're interested, link is in the description below. Thanks again for watching today's episode, and we'll see you on the next one. And remember, welcome to the future, and welcome to Tech Motoring, and we'll see you soon.